I dragged out of my hole this time? Katia, why was I dragged out of my hole this time?
Well, Rush Limbaugh's dead,
Oh, that's great news.
right?
We should celebrate.
Yep.
Like, with all the pain and suffering he's caused in this world.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I know that might sound cold to some, but I want people to really think about this. Um, like, literally, this was a guy whose entire life was having a talk show to convince people of conservative ideas. And yeah, so literally, this person, his whole life, like, was spent,
Was built oppressing people.
yeah, and making money doing it. Also, can everyone hear us in the chat? Okay, not certain. Um, okay, good to go. But yeah, so yeah, this is the reason why, like, it's cause to celebrate is there's one less voice doing harm because every
One less
time,
main voice.
yeah, one less main voice. Because every time he got in front of that microphone, he caused, he ultimately caused people to suffer. Like, no, like,
Mm-hmm. Yep, because he would convince family members to hate their kids. Um, tell people why they should stay in poverty and that it's all going to be okay, and all this other stuff. Like, that's just like, dude, no.
oh,
Like,
awesome,
if
glad
there
you're
was
nice.
ever an argument against free speech, Rush Limbaugh was probably that argument.
Agreed. Well, like, yeah, he literally made his living on oppressing people. Like,
Yep.
that's what he did.
And I mean, some people are like, "Oh, we shouldn't. A death is a tragic." It's like, no, yeah, the death is. I agree. Death is a tragic thing. All those people that Rush contributed to their systematic death and poverty. Yeah, that's a very tragic thing.
Yep.
But yeah, not much more to really say on that. But he's gone, and he will not be missed. So let's move. Being trans and being pagan. Wait, you're pagan? Are you sure you're pagan? I need
I'm
to poke you.
130% certain that I am pagan. Yep.
Oh, really? I'm over. I'm over 1,000. Um, I know. I have such a power level, right?
Wait, Calon, you were holding it upside down. Your power level is really over 9,000.
Yeah, over 9,000. That's right. I know what it means. Hi, yes, we know what it means. Hi, yes, we believe in the gods. Odin exists. All that other, what this means. But we also get it from both sides. Now, this isn't going to be about, say, atheism, because honestly, atheism is at this point boring. Like, it's filled with transphobes. Yes, we can acknowledge that. There's good people there too. Totally. But this is more about transphobia within pagan spaces. You want to start, Katia?
Sure. So yeah, one of the more obvious ones is obviously if you're a more of like the folkist bent of paganism, which is a more toxic one, there's something that intersects with that is you tend to be more likely to, despite the fact it makes no sense in a pagan context to discriminate against GRSM people, there tends to be more likelihood of transphobia. Like I think the AFA, for instance, what is it that they said? They made it very, very clear that they only recognize cishet relationships as valid. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Well, also like for recently, sort of come after, like our friends. Like even along like, and this is particularly common in like Greek folkism, it seems, is you'll get a lot of apologetics saying, "Oh well, we want to have our religion, but we still want to oppress trans people." Like if your liberation doesn't include oppressed groups, then there's no liberation.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you want your religion to be able to practice your religion freely, then the only acceptable way for that kind of liberation to occur is with marginalized groups.
Still buffering a lot. Sorry about the tech issues.
Can we be heard? All right, cool. So usually, in the Wiccan space, we tend to encounter it when we come across Dianic Wiccans.
Oh yeah.
You know about those people, don't you, Katia?
Oh yeah, the ones that tend to be TERFs.
They have this idea that pervading force within the universe, and that because of that there can only be a man and a woman, which doesn't make any sense when you actually know what gender is. Because gender is socially constructed. And for those who say, well, it's also biological, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, there's the interplay between sociology and biology there, but the whole point is that society still structures how that gender forms, ultimately. And basically with them, the weird thing is that they're basically they're constricting their god, this ultimate being in the universe, even though they might not realize it, in one sort of expression. Which is a very weird thing to do to them. Wouldn't you agree so, Katia?
I would absolutely agree, and it really doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to limit the gods, period, in a lot of ways, but why would you limit them to pretty specifically human social constructs? Like, is that not a little bit ridiculous? You know?
It just doesn't seem very, like... It seems more like just using your bigotry and justifying your theology through your bigotry, rather than actually, taking a look and thinking, well, these beings are pretty high up there. Why would they adhere strictly to human gender norms?
Yeah. Well, and even in, like, the lore, it doesn't really make sense, because there's... You see gender variance in
you have... Yeah, in Comiticism, for example, you have tons of different gods who have divine feminine doubles, like Ra, or Ri, as I like to say, better. But as most people know as Ra, there's also Ra'et, or Riat, who is feminine Ri, Ra, the sun god. In heathenry, you have Odin doing a whole bunch of gender fuckery.
Oh, yeah.
With Seidr. Which, Seidr, for those who don't know, was traditionally considered the woman's domain.
Mm-hmm.
Within a heathen context. Mainly, probably because it involved a lot of sexual stuff.
Right.
And doing sexual stuff as a man like that could probably get you attached with ergi, which is a really homophobic idea that the Norse had.
Yeah.
Which, yes, that's the other thing. These ancient cultures had their own bigotries. Shocker, we don't have to bring those into the modern day, you know?
Yeah, we shouldn't bring everything back.
Exactly. So, yeah, the Norse had this idea of ergi, which is actually both sexist and homophobic. Where basically, it wasn't bad to have gay sex, it was bad to be the bottom.
Yeah.
That's where sort of this association with Seidr came from. But as he does a lot of other stuff, such as getting secret, which is like sitting under dead bodies. You have the obviously famous one of Loki, which he is a deity. I know Ulfr's going to hate me for this. But he's one that I know a lot of gender fluid heathens work with.
Yeah.
And I mean, from a lore perspective, it's kind of a little bit like, why would you want to work with him? But then if you think about it deeper and think of him more as like a god of secrets and whatnot, and maintaining secrets and all this other things, like if you look at a poem called Lokasena, you'll see where he knows quite literally all the bad things the gods have done. Which, interesting enough, Lokasena is one of the few poems that we have that may have actually been written by a pagan. Fun fact. And so, yeah, I can actually see why he would be appealing to gender fluid and trans heathens.
Oh yeah, similar reasons though different why Odin is often appealing when you get into the lore, because like you mentioned, a lot of the gender fuckery that he does as well.
Yeah, he does gender fuckery. The thing, and by the way, both of these deities, they're not deities I would recommend personally starting out with. Because they are intense, to put it mildly. But, you know, you do you.
I agree, but also sometimes you can't
you get
help
the
who
Falcon
interacts
too,
with-
interestingly enough. No, you're fine.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying I agree, but at the same time you can't always help. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So, with Focus, they tend to take these gods and they're like, oh, well, Loki clearly isn't gender fluid or something of that other. And it's just like, why are you forcing this god in the mythos into this interpretation? It's just so... And I mean, I know the ultimate reason. The ultimate reason is this idiot named McNallen, where McNallen basically states that the gods aren't even real. They're just part of our genetics. Which is like, what?
I forgot that he had that view. That weird, like... Yeah, that's right, though. McNallen is weird. I do not recommend him.
He is the folk to help popularize folkism in heathenry today. And yes,
Pikachu.
it is a split. And yes, it is a split. And there is no desire for unity because no frick with fascists. Unlike what some other... And that's the other thing with, especially particularly within heathen groups, that is a struggle for us, is that finding ones that aren't transphobic.
Oh yeah.
Like even with Declaration 127, just because we see that, okay, you will be tolerated. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else there is not going to be transphobic.
That's true.
Because for me, I will not participate in ritual with transphobes.
Same. Well, like, why would you do something so personal with somebody that hates you?
Wants your death, even if they don't realize it. Hint, hint, Lou. And so, yeah. So basically, this is all to say that if you don't toss, then your community isn't safe for us. We're just simply not going to participate. Well, most of us. You can always find an exception, but by and large, it's just like, you know, tired of this.
It's probably the weather. I haven't lost internet, so I'm still here, but I do apologize. It's probably on me.
Yeah. So, yeah. That'll be a day when McNallen dies.
Oh, I'll be almost happier than when Rush Limbaugh died. Almost. I think Rush Limbaugh probably did more overarching damage, but McNallen definitely did a ton of damage within heathen spaces, especially.
Yeah. And it's just like, yeah. Even today, you get heathens who don't understand that, hey, tolerating people who don't tolerate others' existence, like when they're marginalized groups, isn't actually a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why,
Like,
oh, I was just
go
gonna,
on.
yeah, that's why, our friend Aliakai mentioned the other day, and I think this is important to emphasize here, it shouldn't just be about tolerance, it needs to be about acceptance.
Yeah, acceptance and non-tolerance for evil, like, just what 127 is, but I guess a lot of people don't realize that transphobia is, in that context, evil.
Yeah.
Like, you can educate people, that's fine. Ignorance is easy to deal with. But when people start, like, just going off the rails about SJWs, how pronouns are ruining everything via some sort of way, even though we have literal nuclear bombs that can level cities, like, it's just so ridiculously stupid.
I'm gonna say this right now, SJWs don't exist. They're a boogeyman.
I exist. Wait, no. I exist. What do you think I am?
Well, I mean, like, in the pejorative sense of this ridiculous authoritarian caricature of what a leftist is, that the right wants
Yeah,
to.
those don't tend. Yeah, no, those don't really exist. What exists are people who have been marginalized, and some of us are angry. And yeah, some of us have better reasoning skills than others. Some of us express it in different ways. But the whole point is that the far right caricature is like, no. That's just them refusing to have empathy.
It's also interesting to note the caricature that they built on. They did through bullying 14 and 15-year-olds.
I mean, that's all they really are just 14, 15-year-olds, just grown up a little bit. Like, the only difference between a teenager and an adult is that the adult can plan a bit further ahead.
Yep.
But, so yes, transphobia in human faces, never a good thing. And in general, in pagan spaces, it's just, yeah, that's.
And I just also I want to
it's a
add
thing.
I know a lot of duotheists want to kind of view things as strictly feminine or strictly masculine, and I'm not trying to shame anyone's practice, but I definitely do think people should maybe consider whether or not what you're looking for is chaotic versus orderly as opposed to something gendered in relation to
Well, yeah, and
especially
generally with the
witchcraft.
dual theistic theology, if the Wiccan has gone far enough, what they'll end up realizing is that masculine and feminine in that context are what are called primitives. Primitives, what that means is that you can substitute any damn word you want in there.
Yeah.
So you can say masculine versus feminine, dark versus light. Good and evil doesn't really work there. Order versus chaos, etc., etc. They're not terms that literally denote masculine and feminine.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, granted, even within just calling it masculine and feminine, you can still establish a precedent for non-binary people.
Yeah, for sure.
Though not really so much those, but though really only for NBs who fall within the binary. Those who fall without, which there are, yes, there are both kinds. You do have those who view themselves as part masculine, part feminine, and others who just say, fuck the binary, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. So, yeah.
Stairs and fluid all over the place.
Huh?
Stairs and fluid all over the place aggressively.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can't really be, like, accounted for at all would say that, like, the energies are fluid and they sort of move in and about us. in different ways, and that's what causes gender fluidity or some sort of stuff like that. It's still just wrong, but at least it's a nice attempt.
Yeah, there's ways around it. It's just difficult, and that's why I definitely urge people kind of within that. I agree with what you said, Calon, in regards to primitives, to really like think of things in terms of like orderly versus chaotic, or creative versus destructive, things like that, instead of genderizing it, because you can get a lot farther with that, and also you don't run the risk of inadvertently limiting the gods you're doing praxis with based on, and I don't say this to invalidate, but
Or
based on
well,
an
for them,
objectively human
so,
construct.
yeah. Well, I mean, and for them, it would basically be the form of the god they're working with,
Right.
or form of god or goddess. I mean, Diana equation, for example, only really recognize the goddess.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, that's the whole thing.
It doesn't matter if you what kind of pagan you are. It's not okay to be bigoted. It doesn't matter if you're heathen. It doesn't matter if you're a Hellenist. It doesn't matter if you're a Wiccan. It's just
Well,
not okay to be a bigot.
exactly. And I think with that, we about wrapped it up.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thanks for coming, everybody. Sorry about the tech issues. Hopefully the weather clears up soon here. And yeah, have a fantastic rest of your day.
All right, see you guys. How long was that?